Yo, everyone, it's me, it's him, back again. And we were speaking before, and there's some news come out today regarding the 777 potential takeover of Everton Football Club. The document that's been leaked today doesn't make for good reading. It just puts another spanner in the works for this group of people to take over the club. From what I'm reading into it, it basically outlines that the 777 partners basically are taking money off different groups, insurance groups, putting their debt onto Everton, basically to get in the club, and then obviously they'll burden Everton with that debt. So before we do carry on, if I have to do disappear in this video, the baby is asleep, so I will have to shoot off and leave you in the capable hands of Michael. But going back to what we've just been speaking about there, Michael, what's your take on that document that's come out?
Yeah, so it's a report that essentially has been written by I'm not going to say a massively well-known journalist, because I don't know him particularly, but a report's come out and it basically breaks down the deal, and it breaks down what their plans are and essentially their business structure once they've bought Everton. And fundamentally, although it's not saddling Everton with debt, they're trying to create a floor of debt of 300 million. And then what they're trying to essentially do is use Everton as leverage to all of the other clubs and all of the other businesses in their portfolio. So what they estimate is that the other clubs and the value of them overall will increase by about 3.2 times what it currently is now, which is a significant amount. The argument for that is, though, that Everton are already saddled with debt. Everton are an established Premier League club. There's very little that Everton benefit out of that. There's a part in the story that talks about money for players, but we know that money has been spent on upfront costs and is being spent on just the running costs of the club, which still to this day stagger me as to why they are so high. But part of that is because the interest on the loan that we have got from them, which is, coming close to £200 million, is about 12.75%. Now, to put that into perspective, most people's mortgages is 4%, maybe 5%. Maybe if you were lucky and you fixed in a year and a half ago, it's 2%. So the fact that that is the loan amount and that is the interest, that's where Everton are getting crippled. So I don't think they will pass the fit and proper persons test at the Premier League. I think that is probably the reason why this has taken so long. This isn't like a Radcliffe case with Ionis buying 25% of Liverpool and he gets of Man United and buying and getting ratified in 44 days. That's not the case, because fundamentally he could prove he has the money because he probably has it stuffed down his back pocket. 777 don't have it. They don't have the money to buy Everton. So how they're trying to prove that they've got the money to do it is clearly not ticking the box of the Premier League. And if I'm being honest, it might be the only good thing Premier League are doing for us, because fundamentally they haven't got the money. If it doesn't happen, we're back to the drawing board. We could be in financial trouble. We could be in administration. But there is people waiting in the wings to pick us up. So look, am I a betting man? I used to be. Do I think Everton are in big trouble? Yeah, I do. But I absolutely think things are going to get better in the very near future. But I suspect they could get worse. I suspect they could get worse first. If these guys pull out and Everton continue to pay off the loans, that's fine. What are they paying the loans with? Because Mashiri said that he's not going to fund it. So Everton are having to take from Paul to pay off Steve, or whatever the saying is. They're not fundamentally compos mentis financially. We haven't got it. So how we pay these loans is beyond me. It would basically mean that the new buyer has to come in, be ratified by the Premier League, and fix out all the loans before Everton go into administration potentially this season. On top of a 10-point deduction, a potential other 10-point deduction, and then 9 points on top of that. I'm telling you, I'm not sitting here negative. but it genuinely could go either way.
I think when you look at it, the situation we were in where we needed someone to bail us out, and it looked like that someone was going to be 777. The way it's working out now, Michael, I think 777 actually need us more than what we need them, because Everton are basically going to get them out of shit street. If they come into the club, as you quite rightly said, they'll put it onto the club in a roundabout way. So if they don't come in, then I think they're down shit street as well, 777 as a company, because we all know that other companies are chasing them for the money that they owe them. Their other clubs are struggling to function. So we don't need a group of people in our club who are going to put us in that situation. And I think I did read something a few weeks ago that if the deal did fall through, then Farhad Moshiri was willing to get back involved with the club. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But at this moment in time, we need some clarity at this football club, whether they're going to come in, whether somebody else is going to start due diligence and try and buy the club, which is mentioned in that article, as you quite rightly say. I will go back to that in a minute. Or is Farhad Moshiri going to come in and again start investing money into the club, as much money as he can, to keep the running costs day to day ticking over? But we don't know at the minute. And as you quite rightly say, this could get really messy. And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Now, I think we all know at the end of the day, Farhad Moshiri isn't going to be in charge of Everton Football Club for very much longer. Whether it be 777, which it doesn't look like they're going to come in, or in the article it does say there's someone waiting in the wings who are going to come in, basically pay 777 off what we owe them in one go, clear the debts off of the club, build the stadium. They're the sort of owners that you want, who are going to come in and basically fund it themselves from their business, from their own back pocket, instead of, as you say, borrowing from different people to saddle the debt onto us. So, obviously it looks like these aren't going to get in. It does mention in the article about someone else being interested. I mentioned to you before, apparently it's a Indian billionaire company and an American company as well. They're also waiting in the wings. But what this means is this whole process that we've been through with 777 starts again. So this can drag on a lot longer than what we hoped.
It can, but fundamentally, if they prove they've got the money, there's no reason it can't take 44 days like it's done Man United.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. If a company comes in and proves they've got the money, then they're not going to get looked into as much as what 777 are, because we've quite rightly said on here many times, each day something else crops up regarding this group of people who are trying to take over the club, and today is just another thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I suspect that, look, in that article it mentions about some other creditors, which is MSP Holdings, who are interested in buying Everton. We obviously have is it Andy Bell?
Yeah, the fella from Ormskirk, yeah.
Yeah, so we owe him some money as well. There's the media rights thing that we owe money to as well. So that, look, we owe a lot of money to a lot of people, on top of selling the club. Now, buying a Premier League club and turning it into a superpower is incredibly difficult. Newcastle are finding it. They're probably the ones where they've got the owners that can do it, but they're not allowed to do it because of financial fair play. It makes clubs like Everton, like Villa, like Newcastle less attractive fundamentally, because they no matter what they do, they have to slowly build to compete with the big boys. And when you sit there and you think, I don't look at Chelsea or Tottenham to being any bigger than Everton. I know Chelsea have got Champions League titles, and I know they've won Premier Leagues recently, I don't look at clubs like that and go, you are bigger than Everton. The only thing that they do have is they create more revenue and more turnover, because financially and commercially, they've done a better job than Everton. When the Premier League was formed, Everton and Manchester United had the same amount of money created from player sales in the first season of the Premier League. They almost had similar revenues, if I'm not mistaken. Everton had more league titles than Manchester United before the Premier League. The Premier League has almost destroyed Everton as an entity from being this massive, massive club that we were 35 years ago to being almost, a shell of ourselves today. So if somebody's going to come in who aren't 777 and they're going to do the right job, they have to pay off all the loans. They have to pay them all off. They have to create one big debt, which is on them. And that takes it away from the club. It's on their shoulders. It's interest free. And, part of the building of Everton Football Club is that they get their money when they sell the club. So hopefully, they build Everton up to be a 1 or 1.5, a £2 billion club with potential future investment. All those positives that you would look at now with a club like Spurs, for example, who 15 years ago were fighting relegation under managers like David Pleat. Everton have to do the same. That whole model of being a big club whose turnover is now, I think, lower than Crystal Palace. And that's not a dig at any Palace fans, by the way, but you're talking comparison here. A team that's won 9 league titles, 5 FA Cups, a European Cups Winners' Cup against Crystal Palace that just don't have the same level of history, don't have the same size stadium, albeit they are in London, fair enough. You're comparing clubs that, if I'm being honest, at the size of Everton and the heritage of Everton, they shouldn't be in, but they are in it because they've been mismanaged, they've been poorly managed, and it's allowed teams over the years to catch up. I think 3 years ago, Everton were the 17th richest club in the world. We're now 30th. We're going backwards on every metrics. So if we're bringing in owners who don't know what they're doing, clearly they run businesses badly, albeit they've been put in this position where they fundamentally are millionaires, billionaires. These are wealthy people that just don't know what they're doing, or whatever they're trying to create is clearly not working. Everton is almost a saving grace for them because they can say, we've got a Premier League club, we own a Premier League club, we're building for the future, all of these positive things. For me, if I was Farhad Moshiri right now and I was looking at Everton Football Club and I was sitting there going, I did love this club at one point, I bought it because I saw it as an opportunity and, I wasted it. I would pull out the 777 deal. I'd pull out of it because I really do not. He is going to get a better return on his investments and everything connected with Everton. He can almost leave with a little bit of grace if 777, who by all prospects, all metrics that I've read, do not look like good owners. And if he can leave finding us a decent owner, which surely a man in his position, with his wealth, with his contacts, surely he knows people that would consider putting a consortium together and buying a Premier League club with having someone like a David Dean or a whoever, somebody who knows football, sort of involved in it. That's what he should be doing, because 777 isn't the answer.
I think, to be honest with you, the way you're speaking there, I think what you're trying to say is basically Farhad Moshiri needs to pull the plug on this deal before the Premier League pull the plug on the deal. I know we did.
It looks better if Moshiri does. That's my point. It looks like he still kind of cares.
Yeah. Instead of just going, well, I'm not bothered, I'm going anyway.
I'm bothered.
Yeah. I know Everton did ask an American company to work on their behalf. Can't think of the names it was. I think it was Everton or something like that. To basically find them a rich owner. They still work for Everton, apparently. So I don't know whether that US company will be part of someone who they have found, if they are the other company that's interested. Going back to what you said there, Michael, about, again, no disrespect to Crystal Palace, who are actually higher than us in earnings now and stuff. I think Everton, since the Premier League started, have never been really run well commercially. And I think now whoever comes in has to get the commercial side right. We spoke about this. It's only been up until recently that you can actually get an Everton shirt in a sports shop or an airport. That's only happened in the last 2 or 3 years. That's shocking for a club of Everton's size. So we have to get that side of it right, because that creates so much revenue if you get your commercial side right. Look at Brighton. Brighton are a perfect example. The way they run their club, commercially, they run it well. They've got a good CEO. They've got good directors of football. Everton, I know success-wise, obviously, again, no dig at Brighton, but Everton success-wise and size-wise are a bigger club than Brighton. Brighton are run better. 1,000,000 times better Brighton are run than Everton. So whoever comes in needs to bring the right people with them who can get the commercial side right, the match day revenue right, you know, the right CEO, the right director of football, if needs be, a different manager. These need to come in and wipe the slate clean. 777 won't do that. No, so we need someone to come in. As you say, Michael, they haven't got a footballing brain. They don't know how to run a football club properly. They need, to be fair, I think when Moshiri come in, should have brought someone on like a David Dean. Done a fantastic job at Arsenal. He's worked at Man United as well. You know, Ratcliffe's just gone into Man United. He's already poaching people from Newcastle. It looks like he's trying to poach people from Chelsea to build a model, to build that club up to what it was. Everton stands still. We have stood still for years and years and years now. From when we were 17th richest in the world, now we're 30th. What does that tell you? The wrong people are in charge now, i.e. Farhad Moshiri and his hangers on. And, you know, I think the CEO's a standing CEO, is it Colin Chong? You're not going to run a business right, and a club is going to lose money on a daily basis if the club is getting run like it is now. So this needs to be sorted, and as you quite rightly say, the process probably won't be as long if we have to start afresh, talking to new investors, because they will have the money, because I don't think the club will make this same mistake again as what we've made with 777.
No,
but it needs to be sorted soon, because we need to know where we are at the end of the season, Michael, going into next season. We can't go into next season like this.
Yeah, so before you mentioned about the US company that you mentioned were trying to find us a new owner. So my understanding, they weren't trying to find a new owner, they're trying to find a deal for the stadium naming rights. And obviously there was rumours about that being about £240 million. And that's probably, look, I'm reading into it a little bit, but it's probably over a 10-year period, which is £24 million. On top of that, the same stadium deal will probably mean that, you know, the shirts have got a sponsor on, and, you know, it might brand it up a little bit. But the simple fact of the matter is, I suspect companies like 777 are literally hanging on the wings of that deal, and they're literally sitting there going, yeah, we can do a lot with that. You know, we can agree to wipe off some of the debts. We can, because that 240 million probably won't be upfront. It'll probably be over 10-year instalments, 24 million a year. But it will allow for that liquid equity to be that liquidity to be better ran throughout the club. You know, player wages might be covered, or some of them, etc. So it frees up money. But the simple fact of the matter is, it's hand to mouth. You know, we all live in a world where we are all, unless you're fortunate, unless you're, you know, as wealthy as you are, John, we are all hand to mouth. You know, we pick up our wages, we pay our bills. If we're lucky, we might have a little bit that we can, you know, go out with or take the kids out. If we're lucky, you know, it's really tough at the minute for a lot of people. And basically, you live and you work paycheck to paycheck. Well, that fundamentally is exactly the same as what a P of 777 are. As soon as money goes in, it goes out. You know, we've seen it with the basketball league. We've seen it with their insurance businesses that they've been talking about. We've seen it that they're having problems in the financial wherever it is in Bermuda. So fundamentally, you need someone to come in that has got the cash, that has got it, that can pull on something to bring it in.
And basically, what you're saying there is having a bundle of cash sitting behind them, sort of thing, where if they have to put it in, they haven't got to go to someone and get it. Whereas if 777, because they haven't got this big bundle of cash sitting there, burning a hole in their pocket, they have to go looking elsewhere. So then that puts more debt on the club. Whereas if we can bring someone like Man United with a Jim Ratcliffe, for example,
they just haven't got. But it sounds
they haven't got the money to back it up. They haven't got the money to back a club up like Everton, have they?
They haven't got a rainy day fund. That's to say in our terms, layman's terms. They haven't got a rainy day fund. So fundamentally, it's all cash flow. It's all cash flow, and sometimes that gets tight for businesses. Sometimes it's wide for businesses. Sometimes they're lucky. Sometimes they don't have it. But fundamentally, you need a business that has got a positive balance sheet and profitability, and a way that they can prove that they can pay for the club. Now, we are 5 months into this process with 777, and by all accounts, they still have not satisfied the Premier League that they can buy this club. Now, whether some of that is the Premier League holding on and being the Premier League to Everton, yeah, it might be. Maybe it's 777, maybe the deal's already done and they've asked it to keep all hush-hush until they find out about the 10 points, and they'll either sign off on it or they'll walk away. I don't know. But the simple fact of the matter is, it sounds very much like a business that has consistently not paid its companies, consistently not paid people's wages, is going to be buying Everton Football Club. It just doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense at all.
I think the more and more I hear about it, I've been on here and I've said, look, we need something to happen because the club can't carry on the way it is. And whether it be 777, because as I said, we didn't have people kicking the door down to invest into the club or to buy the club. The more you hear about it, I think we're actually better off with Farhad Moshiri at the minute. Pull the plug on the deal with 777, or the Premier League basically give them the boot and start the search again if there's no one waiting in the wings. Because I think it's pretty obvious now 777 won't be good for this club. And I know we've spoke about it on here that they'll probably come in, finish the stadium, make a quick 100, 200 million pound in 2 or 3 years, and then they'll sell us on. I don't think we can afford to do that now. I think this deal needs to be pulled. The plug needs to be pulled on this 777 deal sooner rather than later. Hopefully sooner, because it's not good for the club. I think it's pretty obvious for everyone to see now.
Yeah, spot on. Spot on. I just think it's a mess. I think it's a mess, and I think there's a lot going wrong. There's a lot. There's. I'm trying to be positive about our club, and I do suspect that in a year it will be positive. We'll be going in a different direction. But the facts of the matter is, if 777 pull out tomorrow, we need someone who can keep the lights on. And at this moment in time, that only man that can do that is Farhad Moshiri.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to step back up or step back in, isn't he? Just one quick question for you before we wrap up, Michael. Do you know, I don't know how it'll work with business deals like this, and I know you're not too savvy on it. Because this 777 deal is still bubbling in the background, and we're waiting for clarification off the Premier League or off them or Farhad Moshiri if he's pulled the plug. Can Farhad Moshiri start talking to anyone legally?
No.
He can't.
No, because he signed an exclusivity deal with them.
Yeah, but I thought that only lasted for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, but we're past the point. We're already.
So you're past the point. You're past the point where you can't talk to anybody else.
Well, fundamentally, he could talk to people, but it can't be official because it's technically breach of contract. He signed a contract with 777.
But he could go sniffing around, couldn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he can ring up his mate on a Friday night and say, "Hey, do you fancy buying my football club?" he can do that. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, of course he can.
But he can't sign
But he
anything or
he
what.
can't write an email. He can't sign a letter. He can't do any of that. And if that phone call ever come out, he'd be in trouble for breach of contract. He's agreed a sale with 777, and that is that. It's going to take him or them to pull out.
Or the Premier League to put a stop to it.
Or the Premier League to put a stop to it. And if I'm being honest, I would rather it be Moshiri stepping in now. Now, don't get me wrong. It's
going to have
to. Based on a news article. So this is all based on a news article that could be from a journalist that doesn't like 777, and that could be the best thing since sliced bread. But I'm not getting that impression.
I think with the article we've seen before we finish, I think Paulie-esque has basically come out and put a header at the top of the article saying, "I told you so," or something along them lines. And listen, I don't really read his stuff, and I've spoke to you about that. I know you read it more than me, but it seems like the esque has been spot on about this group of people all along, all the way through. And I just think now
the esque, right? I'll just plug in my phone. The esque, right? I'm not going to sit here and say he is the most positive of people on the Everton Twitter platform, because he's not. But in terms of financially, in terms of Everton, PSR and all of that, he knows his stuff. And there is nobody that I would go to first and ask questions to than him. Because I'm not saying he's 100% right, because fundamentally he doesn't really know what happens behind closed doors. But what he has done over probably the last 5 years is know exactly, roughly-ish, kind of where we are in terms of financial. He warned us before we broke the rules. He warned us about profitability. He warned us that we would breach PSR. He didn't think we would breach it a second time, but that was based on the fact that we shouldn't have breached it the first time. So I can't even argue with him for that. So when I sit there and I read things that he writes, and I am fortunate that I do understand the financial jargon. I do understand that world. You know, I'm in it to a degree, so I do understand it. He's not been far off spot on. He's not been far off spot on. And when you actually drill down into the actual numbers, he's never far off them either. So I for one hope that a new owner is pointing, ready to go, ready to come into Everton, ready to fix all the problems, almost be a saviour and just put us on the right path again. But to do that, I suspect it won't be 777.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think that's what we're all hoping for now. And that document to come out today, Paulie-esque did mention something on that article. So, as you quite rightly say, he's been quite spot on with most stuff he's put out. Reading that article, let's hope he's spot on with that.
Yeah. Guys, thank you all for watching. John, thank you for leading that one. I appreciate it.
Very well.
The match preview we are planning to get done tomorrow. It's a Monday game, so the press conference is tomorrow. So, yeah, we haven't heard anything about the 10-point deduction as of now. So we don't know anything about that. We did have an inkling it would be next week. John alluded to that last week, a couple of weeks ago in the video, that he didn't think it would be next week, it'd be the week after. So, look, we are where we are. We are Everton Football Club, and we will keep fighting. We've got Palace on Monday night, and look, we need to go into that game blazing glory, positive, aggressive. We need goals, we need clean sheets, and we need all of those, you know, however many players play, to kick on and deliver for us. And in the meantime, me, John, the rest of the fan base, we were just along for the ride, aren't we?
It's a bumpy one.
It is a bumpy ride. See you guys.
Cheers, folks.